So it looks like we may not be getting any console upgrades this generation anymore. Let's look into this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So last generation was very interesting in a sense that we got these mid-generation console upgrades, PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, right? So basically same generation of consoles playing pretty much the same games, but these consoles had much better specs, so these games would run much better, look better, etc, etc. And the main focus of these consoles last generation was to deliver 4K visuals for the emerging 4K TV market, right? Now, this generation we were all, maybe not all, not everyone, but a lot of people, including myself, we were expecting the same to happen, right? Basically, I'm talking about these upgraded consoles that would happen, right? Last generation, PlayStation 4 Pro appeared 3 years after the launch of PlayStation 4, if my memory serves me right, because the console PlayStation 4 launched in 2013, late 2013, and PlayStation 4 Pro was launched 3 years later, late 2016. Xbox One X arrived 4 years after launch of Xbox One. So, this generation I was thinking that I didn't think and I still don't think that this generation is going to be short. So I was like, yeah, it makes actually sense to deliver these consoles. Otherwise, like 8 years from now, these consoles will be very, very old, right? Or even 5 years from the launch. Usually back in the days, console generation would last around 4 or 5 years. Now looks like that's not really happening anymore. So these kind of upgrades would actually make sense. But there was a number of rumors and leaks and reports about these consoles, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 Pro and Xbox Elite, as some people call it. And so these reports would come from Tom of More Law is Dead, or Paul of Red Gaming Tech, or not so much from Jez or Tom Henderson really, because I will actually come back to Tom Henderson in a minute. But there was a bunch of reports, and recently we actually got a report, it's a real rumor, but that report about PlayStation 5, PlayStation 6 being in development, which, like I said before, it makes sense because these companies usually start working on these new consoles literally shortly after the launch of the console. So it makes sense, but I was still hoping for these consoles to arrive, these upgraded consoles, this generation console upgrades, in 2024, maybe late 2025. Especially that even Sony, in some documents to CMA, did put that they don't expect PlayStation 6, so next generation PlayStation, to arrive before 2028. So that's probably 2028, 2029 if I were to, because I think they did say that don't expect that console to arrive even in 2028. So that must be 2029 or so. So that would be literally 9 years. 8-9 years, depending on where they really want to release these new consoles. 9 years after the launch of current gen consoles. That's a long time. 10 years in technology. Back in the days, that would be 2 generations of consoles. So you can actually see how these generations kind of don't make sense anymore, right? But anyway, let's go back to the topic. First off, Paul of Red Gaming Tech made a video a couple of days ago, a week ago or so, talking about PlayStation 5 as well. But he was, even prior to that, he was saying that, he was hearing reports on these next gen, on these upgraded consoles, but recently these reports stopped. So it seems like either they are still figuring stuff out, maybe they are changing things around, or maybe they just canceled these consoles completely. So that's Paul of Red Gaming Tech, and recently Tom of More Lore is Dead channel did say that it's the same with him, that he was hearing stuff from different people about these upgraded consoles, some plans for these consoles, and all these reports kind of stopped. So I don't know whether they are using the same sources, hopefully not. But, the fact of the matter is that they kind of stopped talking about these consoles now, even though they still think that, these would actually make sense. But I will actually talk about like pricing, technology, and a couple of other things in a minute. But on top of that, yes, Jez Corden did say that he have heard some project names, but that, a project name may be as well for like a totally new console, right? While Tom Henderson, because he's very well-known insider as well, he did say that so far he heard from his sources only about PlayStation 5, well, let's call it slim, but we don't really know whether that's going to be a proper slim console, just like a new model of PlayStation 5. And he did say that he have not heard anything about these upgraded versions of consoles. So Tom Henderson has been reporting on some new models of PlayStation 5, which would come with detachable optical drive, Blu-ray drive. And he did say, because people were asking him, on top of these new PlayStation 5 models, does he get any information on upgraded, like a proper, more powerful versions of these consoles? And he said, no, not really. And I think he even mentioned that if anything, they are probably working on PlayStation 6 rather than anything else, right? And like I said, like even in official documents to CMA, Sony only mentioned next generation consoles. So, I'm not saying that Paul or Tom from Red Tech Gaming and More Law is Dead were wrong, because you need to guys realize that a lot of times these companies would work on some prototypes, and because they keep working on stuff all the time, right? They have to test things, they have to work with suppliers and that kind of stuff. They kind of they are looking into the future, kind of like trying things out and checking if things would work and that kind of stuff. Like, they are prototyping these technologies and these machines, but it doesn't necessarily mean that these prototypes will ever see the light of of a day, if you know what I mean. It doesn't mean that they will ever come to the market. So who knows? And on top of that, like current market is very complicated in a sense that the PC, like not only PC part, generally speaking, electronic parts like semiconductors are getting more and more expensive, not only because of the COVID, which caused a havoc, and we still haven't really fully recovered from that. And in China, they still got issues with COVID. So even though we don't have a big problem with COVID in Europe or in States anymore, like China is still dealing with COVID. And on top of that, the materials actually got way more expensive. Another thing is that moving to the new node, like 3 nanometers node, which would make sense for these upgraded consoles, is very, very expensive. So these consoles would actually be way more expensive than the current ones. And like we are over 2 years, like it's been over 2 years since these consoles launched, and all we see is just price hikes. And even though like PlayStation 5 officially increased price of the consoles to 550 euros, Xbox didn't really do that, but the price of the consoles actually went up a little bit because of the exchange rate and that kind of stuff, right? So these consoles are still quite expensive, and so now imagine releasing these upgraded consoles. Like even in next 2 years, like they would have to cost like $700 or so, right? So, would there be a market for these consoles? Probably yes, but would it be a big enough market to actually basically go ahead with that, with such projects. I don't think at the moment. And another thing is that if we still don't see any proper next-gen games. I know that I keep saying next-gen, but the reality of the situation is that we still haven't really seen a proper next-generation games. Like, the only game I can say that it looks like proper next-gen game is, Hellblade 2, really, right? Well, Spider-Man 2 is supposed to come out this year, so maybe this will be finally a proper next-gen game. Hopefully, well, Hellblade 2 is being rumored to come out this year as well, so hopefully we will get some proper next-gen games for PlayStation and Xbox at the same time. Well, kind of same time, but I mean, at the end of the day, COVID did delay development of many games, and obviously if that happened, it would delay the whole next gen tech implementations in the game engines. Everything got delayed, so and that's why we're kind of suffering because of that, because normally we would probably be playing these proper next gen games already while we're still playing a lot of cross gen titles or games that are Xbox Series or PlayStation 5 only, but still they're not really taking full advantage of these consoles. Like Star Wars Jedi Survivor is still based on Unreal Engine 4, so you can't really call it a proper next-gen game because it's using old as game engine, last generation game engine, right? So yeah, it will be well optimized and it will run, and the game will probably be fun and great, but it's not a proper next-gen game, and there's going to be a lot of games like that. And even some projects that might be running on Unreal Engine, but if they started development on an old engine like Unreal Engine 4, and they were moved to Unreal Engine 5, they still may not take full advantage of these consoles. And like Unreal Engine 5 still don't take full advantage of all the things that these consoles have to offer, because they, like Unreal Engine, don't really take full advantage of the geometry engine in PlayStation 5 still. Don't take full advantage. Don't use mesh shaders in Xbox. Direct storage is still not supported. They talk about it and talk about support, but they still haven't really implemented it yet. So yeah, I think that this generation is kind of a weird one, really. It still hasn't really started properly yet, in my opinion. We are still just we still haven't really even seen anything from these consoles yet, like properly. Because yes, we are getting better versions of the games on these consoles when it comes to consoles, but they're not even scratching the surface, because they're not really using these consoles the way they should be kind of run, if you know what I mean, right? It's totally different approach. Like with SSD, the data streaming and all these different technologies, GPU accessing SSD directly and data basically going straight to VRAM instead of CPU and RAM, and it's totally different technologies, different approach, and it will take some time to actually implement it as well. So I think that we may actually not see these next gen consoles because of the price, because of the technology still hasn't been properly implemented in even current consoles. So this generation may be pretty long and kind of interesting as well, because I guess as soon as we start seeing these technologies being used, it's going to be interesting to talk about it and see how that affects development and graphics and performance. And I haven't even mentioned machine learning and AI in general, because that may actually transform the development as well. So we'll see. But anyway, guys, this video is actually way too long anyway. So I've got my doubts now, really, about these next gen, these upgrades, this generation upgrades. And even though I would love to see them, it looks like we're not really going to be seeing them. And to be honest with you, like in 3-4 years, like these upgrades won't actually make much sense. They may as well just wait a year longer and just release a proper next gen games. Next gen consoles. If we will actually see next generations anyway. So because the market is changing, we may just get upgrades and call it like that. But anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about it? Will we get these upgraded consoles? We will, or maybe not. What do you think about current gen consoles, graphics, performance, and do they feel next gen already to you? Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.